All right, welcome to another Saturday stream. I am your host, Grease Monkey, and you guys are my Grease Monkeys as well. So, we're all Grease Monkeys. Grease Monkeys is a state of being, it's a state of mind. We get in there into the blender, use the grease pencil, use the blender overall, and we tweak and do a bunch of stuff. And for this week, hopefully everybody's doing well out there. And for this week, for this Saturday, it's going to be a 1 hour stream. It's going to be a quick one. I'm, some news, not news, but I'm planning to eventually add 2 streams a week, one on Saturday, still figuring out the other day. And this stream is just to go over the ToonShader that I made and show you how to work with it and some other tips that you may not know within Blender. So that's what we're going to be doing. 1 hour stream going over the ToonShader, how to use it, and you should be able to learn some stuff along the way. Arson Art, hello, and you said SOM? Some? I hope you're doing good out there, Arson Art. Arsene. So as you saw in the thumbnail, I have this scene where I'm using the ToonShader for all the parts of the plant. I didn't model this plant, but it's a pretty simple plant to make if you wanted to make it. State of mind, SOM, yes. It's all about the SOM, state of mind, the SOM. So we have the scene here, which has the shader that I made. If you want to use this shader, let's see if I have this pulled up here. If you wanted to use this shader, the link is in the description. You can just put 0 here or whatever you want to pay. Hit I want this, and you can download it for free. So this is the shader that I'm using, and the plant that I'm using is this one, and this one's from BlendSwap. Links also in the description. And I'm just using this as an example, so I could show you kind of like the workflow. This is made by Simon M. Even Creative Commons 0, so I don't even have to thank him, but thank you, Simon M. And this is the plant that I'm using. This is the ToonShader I'm using. And then that's it, right? So here's the plant. It's using the ToonShader, and this ToonShader, I wish this would just stay on. There you go. This ToonShader is on the plant, and it is on everything. It's on everything. So let me take away this line art here. There we go. And you can see that I have some aesthetic choices that I made. So I made the back leaves a different color than the front leaves, so I can make it look like it's in shadow. So they're actually 2 different shaders. So it's not, I'm like tweaking the individual shaders so they can work and have an aesthetically looking plant. And these are also controlled by lights. Let me show you where the lights are at. I think it's 2 lights. So it's these 2 lights here. It's a sun, and it's also a point light here. And I think the world, let's see if I have it here. The world also is bright here. So, oh, okay. That's something I'm gonna talk about in this stream here. I have it so the world light doesn't affect the lighting on the plants. You see, I can make it brighter and it stays the same. So that's something I'm going to go over. Normally what it would do is if you just had what I have here, you'll have this affect the object, and that'll kind of, your energy balls are very helpful, by the way. Great. Also in the description for anybody watching. So you can see that the background affects the lighting of the plants. See, they get blown out here. But what I want is the background to not affect the plants. So I have this setup here, which I will explain, that makes it so the background does not affect the objects in the foreground. Sometimes that's useful. If you want a background and you know, it's like if you're doing ToonShader, you have like an artistic direction. So sometimes you don't want everything to be like realistic and like trying to work with each other. Sometimes you just want to choose your colors, choose your background, choose your lights, and then move on with your life and not have to worry about that. So this is a setup here that I'm gonna go over as well. We're gonna start from scratch. Okay, so I guess besides the world, you see the plant. Everything is customizable. Every you know, these sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought. These shaders, you know, we can always affect it afterwards. They're very customizable. We're changing the color here. I just put a hue and saturation. But we're gonna start from the beginning. You see, you could change it into some different colors there, right? So if you wanna have some fun with your plant here, so you know, you can have a lot of fun with this shader. Okay, so let's start from scratch. So I'm gonna go to File, New, and we'll start from scratch. I'm gonna hit Don't Save. I'm gonna start from the beginning. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. New General. There it is. Let me put in the screencast keys. Is it on? Yes. There they are. Okay, so we're here in Blender, and just for my sake, I'm gonna make, there it is. I'm gonna make that bigger, and I'm gonna make the mouse a little bigger too. There it is. Just so you can see it. There it is. Okay. All right, so here we are in a new Blender file, and what I'm gonna do is first I'm going to show you how to set up the asset browser for you to have the materials in one place, right? So this is I think the way that you should do it. So I'm going to split up my window here. You can drag in the corner, click on the top left here, and I'm going to go to asset browser. So in asset browser, you can have different assets that are in folders. I should have had this open. Let me open up a folder here. 1 second. So I could start this SSD materials. Okay, so I have a folder that has these assets in it, right? I have the energy materials, the hologram material, and I have the ToonShader, which is right here, GM ToonShader. Actually, let me show the real one here, GM ToonShader. And this is what this folder, so basically you should have a folder with all the assets that you reuse all the time, right? And to set up something to be part of the asset browser, let me just open this up, right? Let me go to File, Open. Let me open up the GM ToonShader. There it is. So here's the GM ToonShader. So I have the materials here. Here's the material. If you want something to be part of an asset, like the asset browser, to show up in the asset browser, you have to select it. This is for materials specifically. And there's you right click it and you hit make as asset, and that'll make it so it'll appear in the asset browser once you have that set up. So I have these materials set up as made as asset. You can also do that with these objects. I believe you right click, and here it is, mark as asset, not make, mark as asset, mark as asset. So you got to make sure that your assets in your Blender files are marked as asset, right? So the next thing you have to do is you go into your edit, you go to preferences, you go to file paths, and under asset libraries, you put in the folder where those materials are at. So mine is under assets, Blender materials. And if we look at that folder, you'll see that this folder holds all the blend files that has the materials that are marked as an asset. Okay, so when I have that folder here and I have them marked as an asset as the blend file, then when we open this up in the asset, we open up the asset browser, you'll see that I'll have current file. So that's everything that's in this file. I have nothing marked as an asset, but I have my materials folder in here, and I set that up once again in the file paths. I named it materials. I named these user library buildings. So I have these materials. So these are all my materials that I have. All these textured ones that I have here are ones that I actually bought throughout time from the Unity store. I actually used Unity And there's hand painted textures in Unity that I'm using right now. But I also have my energy balls here, and I also have the GM ToonShader, which is the important one for me, right? So so let's get started with, you know, how to use this, right? So let me make some space here. I have the asset browser here on the side. We're going to leave it on the ToonShader here. Okay. There's the ToonShader. Okay, so first I'm going to get rid of stuff. Let me get rid of the cube. I'm going to reset the camera, so I'm going to hit Alt-G and then Alt-R. That resets it all to the center. I'm going to hit R-X, so rotate on the X-axis 90 degrees, and then I'm going to hit G for grab, hit the Y, and I'm going to bring it back, right? And just so we could see this, let me open up a window here for you. We can always see what's happening through the camera here. So we're going to go into 3D viewport. We're going to go to the right, go to rendered, take that off, and we're going to look. Right now it's nothing, but I'm just setting this up for your sake. I'm going to take away this header here just so it's like real clear, and I'm going to make sure that the camera, it blacks out the sides so you can only see the middle, right? So just for the sake of seeing something, let's put the monkey there. You can see the monkey is there. Okay, and let me set up my lights. Let me just light it up here. Boom. Okay, we're slowly getting started into this. All right, so like I said in the beginning, I'm using an asset. Oops, I'm using an asset. Let me find it here. I'm using this asset here, right? So I downloaded it, and I'm going to be appending that into this this file here, right? So let's do that. Link is in the description if you want to use the plant. All right, so let me erase that. I put the monkey there just for you to see, but we're gonna hit append. You gotta find out where you downloaded it. I have it here somewhere, media, models. Okay, here's our plant. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click the plant, and inside there's a folder called collections, and I'm gonna click on plant, and that should import our plant here, right? There it is, right? And there's our plant, and you can see it's really dark there. So let me get my camera and zoom in on it here. Let's go like 120, and also let's move our camera closer just so we could really see it here. And we're gonna bring it up there. Z, right? So here's our plant. There's a few things I want to delete. I want to delete this stick, and I believe there are these strings here, and just delete that. So X delete, X delete. Okay, cool. So we have our plant that we imported from the link in the description, that blend file. Here's our plant, and it's dark right now, right? So before we do anything, let's actually set up our lights first so we can see what's happening here. So one thing I want to set is the sun. So let me make one of those. I'm going to bring this light over here and bring it a lot closer. There it is. All right, so there's our light. And then let's move. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate. Here's our light here. I'm going to name it point light. So points. And I'm going to name this sun just so I know what they are. I named it Sun. Sun. I'm going to change the sun one into the sun lamp here. There it is. Super bright. Don't like that. So I'm going to put it to 1. And basically I'm going to be messing with a sun and a point light. And that's how we're going to set up our lights. Okay, cool. So our plant's in, our lights, we got a baseline. So when you set up the lights, I just mean like you should be able to see what you're looking at. So I would add in as little lights as possible in the beginning, just for you to see your light, right? Okay. The next thing I want to set up is my background, and that's like the tip that I wanted to say here that's pretty useful. So let's open up another window here, and we'll go into the shader editor. And under shader editor, there's 3 options we have: line style, world, and object. When we're on object, we're doing materials, but when we do the world, we're doing, you know, the background here. And if we see it's gray, that just corresponds with this gray background here, right? So we could change this different colors, and you can see it changes different colors on the top left corner, right? So what I want to do is I want to have a gradient. So a gradient from, like, you know, light blue to dark blue or something like that. So first we put in a texture. We'll put in a gradient texture, shove that in here. Boom. You see the texture is going left to right there. Then I want to add, I want to rotate this, right, this line, so it's left to right instead of up to down. So let's go to converter, or no, vector mapping, and we'll put that here. We'll wait for it. Oh, it's not gonna happen. So let's go to input texture coordinates. So I'm just gonna hit generated here. Okay, now we're back. Now I can rotate this on the Y. You see, 90 degrees. All right, and then I can also move it down, right? So that'll be on the, if we look at this right here, it's the Z axis, right? So that's what it should be. It's not, because I rotated it. So never mind, it's not the Z axis, it's the X axis? Okay. Can be a little confusing. Just mess with them until one of them works. All right, there you go. So there we go, we have the gradient going from the bottom to the top, which just goes from dark to light, right? So we also want this to be a color. We just don't want it black and white. So in between the gradient, which is outputting this color, we're gonna put in a converter, because we're gonna convert this black and white to a different color. So converter, color ramp. Click on there. Obviously it's black and white. That's not what we want. Let's change this to blue, or like a fun color. This is where you can have fun, you know, having some colors here, you know. Pick your colors. Choose the black to be like a pink color or something, right? There we go. We can even move these sliders so we can have the gradient. There we go. Okay, so now when we're looking at this, let me see if I can show you here. When we're looking at this, we can see that our plant is being affected by the light on the outside. And since we're doing like a ToonShader type thing where we don't want everything to be like super interacting with each other, we want some control over this. I was trying to figure out how can I make it not affected. So you can see it's affecting it, right? Like that is the light. You can see this plant right here is like pink, right? Pink, and you can see that it's being affected by the color. And I don't want that. I don't want it to affect that. I just want my background to be nice and cool. And you can even see here when I use the strength on the background that it blows out our plant here, and we can't see our plant anymore. It's not what I want. Not what I want. So here's a cool trick to make it so you have a background that has that's not lighting your objects in the screen. So we'll hit a mix shader. So let's go to shaders mix, and we'll put this at the bottom. All right, and then the special node that we're going to use is under input, and we'll do light path. All right, light path. Here we go. And we'll do, I think it's camera array right here, into the factor. Now you can see I can blow out the background, and it's not, this is not being affected. Let's get real close here. You can see this background is not affecting the object in the front, and that's exactly what I want, right? Because I want to have the background just be what it is, so I can choose whatever it is, right? Great. So let's do that. Just saturating some colors here. And yeah, that's this light path. I mean, a quick explanation. You should definitely look up how this light path works. But when this is basically saying like, I only want to see this, right? So I only want to see things that are hitting the camera. I only want to see the shadow rays that are being hit in the camera. I only want to see the diffuse light that's, instead of ray, you could say light, right? Like I only want to see the diffuse light that's coming, or the glossy light. It's a very interesting node. Camera just kind of, I guess, I'm not even fully aware how it works. So if anybody can explain, please do. But from my understanding is that it's not going to, it makes it so it doesn't affect the objects. So just know that this is the setup, so you can have a background and the light not affect the object. Great, cool. So let's bring this down. And cool, so we're here, right? So now the next thing I want to do with this object is I want to take off all the materials from here, right? So let's go to our object. I'm going to click on it, and here's our materials right here. And we'll go, this is a pretty interesting texture right here. Anyway, so I'm gonna just delete all the textures, because this is the textures that came with the object. So I'm just gonna delete them all. So delete. I'm gonna delete these. Honestly, I think I should be able to select all of this. Let's see if it'll work. Let's see if this trick works. And I'm gonna select the plant, and I'm gonna hit copy materials to selected. Cool. So what that does is, let me go back. Right now you can see this outline here. Let me go back to this. This outline is yellow while the rest of them are orange. So this is the currently selected object, right? So while I'm currently on the selected object, it doesn't have any material. But let's say if I select something with material right here. See, these are the materials of the leaf because that's the selected object. So I have the pot that has no material. I click this little button here. I put copy materials to selected. So whatever is the selected object is going to then copy to the rest of the object, which is no material. Here it is. Copy to selected. There's no materials now on this object. We took off all the materials, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay. Ferd, good to see ya. It's going to be a short one today, Ferd. Just going through the workflow of using the ToonShader and like the different ways. I found some like caveats to it that I need to fix later in the future. Okay, so we have our objects has no materials. And just a quick thing, if you're not using something, so if something isn't being used, you can actually erase it from the project file. So let me save this real quick. I'm going to save it into the project file. I'm going to call it Livestream because that's what I'm doing. Livestream. Okay, we're going to save. Cool. So what you could do is, if you look in here, you see all these materials are here, but they're not being used. Sometimes I like to clean up, right? So if the material isn't being used, you can go to File, Clean Up, and go to Unused Data Blocks. And all this is technically data blocks that aren't being used, right? So we'll go to File, Clean Up, Unused Data Blocks. And you can even see it here, Purging, 14 unused data blocks. 10 of them are materials, 4 of them are meshes. Yes, so we delete that, and then this should empty this out, right? So right now the only materials being used is technically wood and strings. I'm not sure why. And materials. So I'm gonna delete all of it. So I'm gonna select the material. I'm gonna hold shift and hit the minus button, and that marks it for deletion. Same thing with this one, marks it for deletion. Same thing with this one, marks it for deletion. I'm gonna go to File, Clean Up, Unused Data Blocks. You see that it's 17 more are unused, 14 images and 2 materials. So hit that. Apparently this material is still being used somewhere. I'm not sure where, but it's here. We'll leave it, but just know that that's exactly how you purge stuff. It's like shift and then the minus collect, right? Okay, cool. So now we have our plants and it is here. We got our background set up. So it's not affecting the object in the front. We have our light set up so we can see our plant. Where's our lights here? Hold on. Let me lower the brightness of this. I'm going to put 0. Let's put like 20, 100. I don't want it to be blown out. So I'm looking at the left here. Just trying not to have it blown out. All right. Let's do 200. There you go. Okay. All right. So our lights are set up so we can see our object. Our materials are taken off. Our background is set up so the light doesn't affect the object. Great. We're all set now, right? All right. So now that you have your asset browser, you should have your ToonShader in there. So there's an option here that you have to set up right now. I have to update this ToonShader because if you don't set it up this way, it's potential for things to break. But right now, we'll just do it this way. So let me go to the object. In the asset browser, the setting that you need to have, instead of put append reuse data, I'm going to put append, right? So the difference between append and append reuse data is this, right? So if you have append reuse data, and I put this ToonShader onto an object, right? Let's say this pot here, and then I do this ToonShader and I put it on the plant. This is under reuse data, so if it detects that this ToonShader is being used here, it's just gonna copy this ToonShader to this plant. And right now we don't want this because I have some drivers that are set up in the material that once they're duplicated, they affect all the shaders that are in the scene which is not the versatility that we want. I'm gonna have to fix that later. So right now, just put append instead of append reuse data, right? So we're in append. Here we go. And we're gonna start putting in the material. Oh, the music is too loud. I am sorry. There we go. Thank you for that, Jor. I appreciate that. I'm always never know. So I think the music should be good now. All right. So make sure that your asset browser is on append, your ToonShader's here, and we're gonna start dragging this ToonShader to all the different objects, right? So let's just do that now. So let's do ToonShader here. We'll do ToonShader onto the individual plants. So for the, I'm gonna hit the pot, click the plot, and I'm gonna call this pot. And for this one, I'm gonna call it stem. And I'm actually gonna reuse stem on all these because these are all gonna act the same. So I'm gonna select, all the stems. Select the stem with the material, and like I said before, this little arrow key here. Click on that and click paste materials. No, sorry. Paste materials to selected. There it is. Cool. So now all these have the same stem there. All right, and then we're gonna drag it one more time onto this leaf here. Great. So let's get the material. We'll call it leaf. Beautiful. We'll select the other leaves. We'll select the main leaf with the material. Same thing, little arrow. Copy materials to selected. All right, cool. So now we have our potted plant, and it has a ToonShader. Everything's named, and the lights are set up already, so that's why it already kind of looks decent with the lines here. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. That's why you should always set up your lights first before using the ToonShader, so you don't have to like fiddle with your lights afterwards. This is a decent thing we have here. Okay, cool. So now we don't need our asset browser anymore, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. Get in the corner, getting rid of it. There we go. Now we can see this nice and big. All right. So now let's start playing with the ToonShader on the individual object basis, and I think this is important so you can have versatility in this. So let's click on the pot, and let's do this. Let's make it so I can only see the pot. If I remember correctly, that's Shift H. There we go. All Shift H is doing, right? All Shift H is doing is essentially clicking on these eye icons here, right? So I'm selecting, if you select a leaf and hit H, it hides it. It just, that's it, right? Boom, hides, H, hide. Boom, I hit all of those. But if I wanted them back, if you hit Alt H, it makes everything visible again if you ever need to come back from that. But what I want is I just want to see the potted plant. So Shift H says hide everything but what's selected. So then boom, Shift H. Now we're on the potted plant. Unfortunately, our lights went away too. So let's bring back our lights here. There it is. Now we got our light. Okay, cool. So here we are with our potted plant looking dandy, right? Now let's go to the shader graph here. So shader editor, I should say. Hit world, go to object. And now let's start messing with this. With the ToonShader. So first thing I want to do is I want to take off the gradient intensities for SH and TP, which is I forgot what it was called. I should rename these, but it's top to bottom and source the light. I have to rename these. I will rename these. But basically, this gradient comes from the light source, and you can see the gradient happen here, right? And you can see I could change the color to whatever I want, green and blue. So this gradient happens from the light source to the back, right? And then what TP, the gradient, does is from top to bottom. So if I turn this on, you see the gradient. If I turn it all the way on, the gradient's from top to bottom. So here's, like blue, red, right? So the red's at the bottom, blue's at the top. So it's kind of I have this top bottom one. So like if you wanted to do like some shading, so let's say instead of red we just did dark, and then the sky's like blue, right? So let's set it to blue, and then we put the intensity down, and then we can have kind of like a gradient here happening from top to bottom. It's very subtle, but it's something that I like to do. Anyway, so I took all those off. We're gonna be working with the pure color here. So first thing I want to do is set up the colors for the light. Sometimes 3 colors is a lot, so maybe you could just duplicate 1 and 2. Let's just work with 3 colors. So it'll be highlight, the middle color, and the third color. To switch that, you just copy, hit Control C over color 1, and Control V. So it's just 1 color there. All right. So let's play with these colors, and I'm just gonna real time figure out the colors that I want. I like that pink one I did before, right? So let's figure out the pink. Dark pink here. This white, I don't like the white, so let's set this up. Maybe just a little brighter there. Okay, great. So there's our lighting, and I think it's neat, right? But in the thumbnail, you see that I had a texture on there. So with the principal shader, with this you can actually put in any texture that you want, right? So if I go to Shift A, go to texture, and I do an image texture, right? Or you could do Control T. That's like a shortcut for this. You get your whole setup here that you need, right? So I'm gonna just randomly choose an asset. I downloaded this off the internet years ago. I have a seamless texture here of like let's say the bricks here, right? If I put the brick texture in there, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading. There it is. You can see the brick texture actually translates over. We can make it smaller here, right? Burn, hey, how's it going? We're going over using the ToonShader. It's gonna be just an hour-ish long stream. But thank you for joining. Okay, so we have the COC. See, you can use textures on there, which is pretty neat. It gives it a lot of texture. It looks nice, and it's a brick, which I think is pretty interesting, right? So let me take this off here. Okay, so I can see that I have this this IOR. Sorry, Fresnel. This Fresnel's on here, so let's take that off too. We'll put that in later. So let's put the Fresnel intensity to 0. There we go. So we have that. We'll add it in later. And Evelyn, good to see you. Always. Thank you for joining. So we see that we can add in any texture that we want, right? It's like pretty awesome, right? I can even put like this cracked leather texture, which is pretty neat. And if you ever want to edit these textures, you put in a converter color ramp on here. And then you can just click on this and hit reverse colors, and you could do it the other way. But this helps you have some like control over it, right? We reverse it here. We could do the same thing where we bring the light here. And that's how you control the textures that you could put on with the ToonShader, which I think is pretty neat, especially if you use it sparingly. Like if you put this like really huge, it obviously looks ugly because it's pixelated. But you know, this is a nice little leather texture. Anyway, for the thumbnail, right, what I did was, instead of using an image texture, which is really neat that you could do, I think I'm going to do it in the future. I'm going to delete that. I used a Voronoi texture, so let me delete that. And let's go to... before that, just know that you can also make this a lot smoother if you just now increase the detail here. And you can see, you can smooth out the look. So maybe the ToonShader is a little harsh, but if you just put this detail up, you can see it. I like to use this very like a small amount, right? So like you just do a little, hold shift, and just break up that edge, and that's it, right? You could barely even see it here, but it helps with the it read visually better. Obviously, you could put a shit ton of it, and then it's just one giant gradient, which is cool too. But just know that you can also break up the shader there, right? So I'm gonna have it off for now. And for to get the thumbnail look, I use a texture Voronoi texture, and I used for the second option I chose distance to edge, and I put the randomness as 0. Now when we connect that into the color, you see I'm starting to get that look, right? So let me connect this again, connect the mapping on here, and then we can make this bigger or smaller. And there it is. There's our look, right? So right now this is using the UVs. You can see the UVs right here. And that's why this is a little slanted. That's just weird how the UVs are. You can always try to use generated instead. Or object. Might look the same. Let's see if it does. You know, and you can just try different ways of doing this here. There you go. Still imagining la forage evening. How do you pronounce that? La Froig evening in Canada. La Froig? La Froig. Anyway, so here we are. We got our Voronoi texture, and that's how I got that look from the beginning. And I'm going to put a color ramp on here. And I can affect the lighting, right? There's definitely some weird stuff happening here with these lines at the top. And I think what's happening is... Let's see if I'm right here. I thought it was the shadows, but let's figure out real quick what this is. See if we can fix those lines real quick. If not, we'll have to keep moving. This is just kind of like a basic a basic look at this stuff. There you go. Don't know. It's a whiskey from Scotland. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I haven't had a good whiskey in a while. Okay, so... Oh, that's how I got that look. So yeah, so I was using 3 different colors. So if you put like a darker color there, you can see that the pot starts looking pretty good. But there's something up here with those lines. So it could be the lights, right? So let's figure out the light situation here. Alright, so we got that. We got that. Let's see what else. Is that roughness? Take the roughness down. Specular. Put the metal up. You can also mess with this principal BSDF. Alright, we might have to move on. Just so I can pack this all in. And then the last option always is you can select the color positionings. So let's go and see if that's the issue. It is not. Okay. So let's keep it going. All right, so we have our... Whoopsies. What was I doing? So we have our potted plant, and we have this at the top, which is like the soil. So let's add in the soil. So what we're gonna do is make another material, and then we're gonna go into our asset browser again. Let's see. Asset browser. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to add in the pot again. We're gonna go into our edit mode. So we have two pots right now, right? I'm gonna go to edit mode and select only the soil here. So to select everything like the soil, you should be able to hit L, and that selects basically singular objects. So L, whatever your mouse is over, it'll select everything that's connected to that. So I'm going to hit assign to the pot here. And then I'm going to select the material and then drag it on there. There we go. Oops. I forgot to put append at the top, not append reuse. So let's do it again. And there it is. Now we'll call this soil. And now we'll mess with the colors here. Alright, so one thing I noticed first, right, is on this soil, it's being overblown. You can only see it at an angle here, and that's just because this Fresnel intensity is on. But if we have a Fresnel on, you see that it's all just bright, right? So what we can also do is change the base color of the principal shader and bring it down. I guess not. I thought that's what you did. Hold on. Alright, let's just change the color of to a brown color. Let's copy it onto the rest. We're going to troubleshoot this live, baby. Let's see what's wrong here. Let's take off these gradients. There it is. We're at brown, but we have no lines. And we can't see the soil. So let's work through and mess with all the things that have an effect on the soil. So first things first is let me make sure this point light affects it, right? So let's move the light over. Oopsies. Let's move this. Alright, so now the light is like right over this potted plant here. What could be the issue here? So let me just start troubleshooting. I turned off all the lights except the point. Let's figure this out, because I'm gonna need to update this shader here. Alright, let's bring out back our Fresnel. Let's make this the dark brown. There it is. Very nice. Let's take off the roughness and metallic. So we'll just keep on the Fresnel for now, the Fresnel intensity, so we can see it at an angle here. But once we're over, it's just, oopsies, that color. Anyway, so we have our soil and our pot set up. Sorry, I am just testing out some stuff here before we move on to the leaves. Look at this web inside the ToonShader. It's like insane. Ah, yes, there is an issue I need to fix and update this shader. So I have some drivers in here that are messing up and breaking. And I'm fixing them now. It's good to know. Okay, let's keep going. Let's bring this here. Well, good thing I did this live. I can really see what's happening here. See the issues people are coming into. Alright, we're going to move on to the plants now. Alright, we'll leave that as is. So now that we have our ToonShader set up for both the plant and the soil, or the pot and the soil, let's move forward. And I'm going to do Alt-H to bring back the rest of the plants here. And I think already they look pretty good. But I guess we need to change some colors. So first I'm going to change the colors for the stem. So here I click on the stem. The stem is listed in the top there. And we'll just change these colors to our liking, right? So let's do that. Let's do a light green. And I was looking at the leaves. I'm supposed to be looking at this right here. So right now this has the gradient on. I gotta make it so it doesn't show up with the gradient. There it is. We have the green. We'll make it a little darker for the shadow. We can make even the highlight darker, but let's just make it bright. There we go. Maybe we'll make it a little warmer, a little yellow there. There we go. And we got our leaves. For our stems. Now we click on the leaves. We're under the leaf. We'll take off the the gradients from those. Here's our real colors, and we'll do the same thing. I'm gonna copy the same color, so I'm gonna go back to the stems, hit Control C over that one, and I'm just gonna do it back and forth. And I'm just copy and pasting all the colors, so we have somewhere to work off of here. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we got our leaves all color coordinated, and I'm just eyeballing these colors. You can sit here and tweak these colors to your heart's content. Let me actually tweak it a little more here. All right, so an issue we're having right here is this has like no detail. So this shader's affected by light. So let me move my light around. And then the rest is about lighting. This is also the give and take when it comes to shaders that are affected by light, is that you will be playing with these lights for a while. All right, so let's bring down the sun. And let's bring down the light. See what it looks like unlit. And now we'll start adding light by light. Right here, let's see. We're looking at the end here. We have purple. Where that's coming from is the Fresnel intensity. So let's take that off. Or actually, let's leave it on and just change it to, instead of purple, we'll copy and paste this top color. We'll put it light there. There. Okay. So here we are. And now let's start adding in the lights. And we'll add them slowly. We're just moving the light so it makes sense. Duplicating the light. Moving it to the side. There we go. And then to have like an artistic idea, artistic choice here, I'm just gonna select the leaf in the back, and I'm gonna hit this like new material icon. It'll be 001, and I'm gonna put the rest of these to 001. Because I'm going to make all the leaves in the back one color. There we go. So now only the front leaves are being affected. There we go. We're fixing the light there. All right. These lines are very harsh, so then that's when I go into the leaf, put in the detail up. We can smooth it out, and we'll see here that they're smoothed out gradients. There we go. We can even bring the lights, make them a little stronger. There we go. Have a nice little interesting look there. All right, and then you can see that the material, the potted plant material, it doesn't have any lights on it. So I'm going to duplicate this, bring it down, and then we're going to light up the pot part, right? So let's bring that. There we go. I'm also going to take off shadow, just so we're just lighting it from the top there. We'll make it a little brighter. Okay, cool. So let's change. I'm going to change this material here for the pot. And I'm going to try something else. Let's see if any of these look a little better. It may not. I think they're just going to be grids. I mean, these are kind of fun though. Kind of gives it like a dot look. And then we can add in some detail here where we smooth it out. We can even rotate this pot. Let's RZ. All right. We can try doing only the UVs. Let's see how the UVs look. All right. Let's make the dots smaller. There they are. All right, I think that looks a little better. All right, now some aesthetic things I like to add, right? So we have our leaves, they're colored, they're faded out. The leaves in the back are a different color. I want to have like a bright line on the left where the light is, and maybe a bottom left, and then maybe a dark line at the bottom right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the Fresnel back. And put the IRR. I'm going to hold shift. You can see that it starts engulfing it, right? But I just want the very tips. There it is. You can see they're purple right now, and that just corresponds with these colors right here. So I'm going to just pick a color on this corner there, and then pick the pink in this corner here. You can see they're on the wrong side, so I can hit rotate, and I can just put this one at the top. And then I can actually make this darker, right? There it is. So there it is. So we have this nice little highlight there. We can make it a lot smaller, so it's less noticeable. We can even make it pink, maybe. Maybe it looks better pink. Maybe better blue. No, it looks better as like a white. So there we go. And then we have our Fresnel that's affecting the light. So boom, kind of pops it out there. And I like to do that. And the last thing I want to do is give an outline to the plant. And to do the outline, I just select the collection that is the plant right there. Boom. I'll hit Shift A and do grease pencil collection line art. And then I will do a couple things here. I'll go to the line art. And I would go to the modifiers, and I would go to style, and I'll bring this down to like 2. All right, there's our outline. And then for aesthetic reasons, instead of it being like black, I'll go to the materials and I'll make it like this dark green that's back here. So let's pick that. There it is. So now we have like this dark green line. Unfortunately, it's putting it on all of it, so maybe it should be closer to black, but you know, that's how I add in that line there. You know, we hit little render. We essentially have our toon shaded, color coordinated object here. So that is pretty much, oh man, the overview of this shader. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Anybody out in the chat have any questions related to the shader or not? Because I have about five or 10 more minutes before the stream has to end. So let me figure out a couple things here. Maybe I can fix it on stream. But this is basically it. I ran through the whole process of the workflow of working on these leaves, and we can always mess with the lights too. You know, we can always just add more, add less. You know, we can go into the plant shader and mess with the positioning of these lights. Man, I'm just messing with lights here. All right, and that's, like I said, this is pretty much, you know, the quick overview on how to use that shader. I'm gonna be updating it this week. There's a couple things that break when we used it. It even happened on stream, but for the most part, completely good, completely usable. It works. And you have a lot of control. Like for this is why I added the gradients. Let's see if I can add some. So we already have a gradient going across, and that's happening because of this detail here, right? So we have it, you know, normal. And then we can just add in a little, just to fade it between there. And then we'll do a top to bottom gradient. So let's turn that gradient on. You can see it turns completely blue, which is kind of cool. But I'm gonna add in a gradient, and instead of this blue, we'll do like a blue pink, very saturated, and let's just add some funky colors here. Super bright too is what I'm gonna do. If we see the colors top to bottom, it's red, red to yellow. We'll lower it and just add in a little bit of it there. You know, adds a little flare there. And then add in another one, right? Let's do it the other way. We can have gradients all around. And I just think adding the gradients just add in a little bit more panache, some panache. Maybe we can add some gradients to these objects here. So let's see what they look like. All right, so let's add in some colors here. Actually, maybe pumping up the green would be good. Let's pump it up. There it is. Make a real contrasty color there. There it is. Boom. Looking gorgeous. Let's copy these colors here just to see what they look like. You know, we can add it in there. They look like iridescent ones now. I think this is pretty good. And boom, we popped it up a bit, even more. We popped it in. So there we go. For anybody watching out there, let me know if you have any questions. Ferd, Evelyn, Burned, Jor, if you're out there, Arson Art. This is pretty much it. So let's take a quick break for a couple minutes, and then I'll have to end the stream. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this just 1 hour stream going over using the ToonShader here. There's a few things I need to update on it, which I will be doing this week to figure out, because some things break when you add it in from the asset browser, but I still think you have a lot of control. It's really cool that you can add in different textures onto the principal shader. Something I'm going to be playing around with. I appreciate everybody tuning in this week or today, even though it is a short one. I hope everybody has a good weekend and a good everything. I hope to see you guys in the future. All you fellow grease monkeys out there. I'm going to be putting up some polls in the community tab for the next tutorials. I have some tutorials planned, but maybe I'll reorder them depending on what you guys are interested in. I will be figuring out probably in a couple weeks to do a couple extra, or maybe one more live stream, probably middle of the week, maybe like Wednesday, maybe Monday, maybe Thursday, maybe any of those weekdays. I hope this was useful. Once again, the shader is in the description. The plant that I use here is also in the description. And yes. All right. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Take care. Have a good one.